Today I'm chatting about my plant-based journey, how I awakened to it, and why it is a core part of my life. Hi guys! So before I get into the story, I wanted to say that on this journey of self-discovery, self-exploration, I'm stripping away as many layers of labels as I can. So I try to avoid the label vegan in my everyday thoughts or conversations. Because of how our society works, the word vegan puts a person in a very rigid box. A very specific image gets generated when people hear the word, oh, that person is vegan. So I desire to not be shoved in a box. I don't know who I am. How can society put me in this very tactile box? But obviously, language is restrictive. If we were telepathic, we could just understand each other's feelings without the need of saying nothing. But for the sake of this video and for the sake of conversation to flow, I will use the word vegan as we continue talking. Honestly, vegan is more than a diet. It is a life philosophy. So how and why did I become vegan? I've been vegan for a little over 2 years now. I started on this journey when I moved to America for university, North America. My Latin friends will not let this generalization slide because obviously there is South America. Anyway, before I went there, I did not even know the term vegan. I legit remember Googling the difference between vegetarian and vegan, and that's how I learned. In case you don't know, a vegetarian diet is no meat. Some eat seafood but no other meat. A vegan diet is no animal products, so no meat, no cheese, no milk, no eggs, and then by extension, no leather, no suede, no wool, etc. Being vegetarian was an idea that was in my field of consciousness for some time. Like somewhere in my subconscious mind, I was open to it. Primarily because I felt drawn to animals and I didn't want to eat them, but I didn't water this idea. I was part of a society where eating meat and dairy was like ultra normal and branded as ultra necessary. Like you need milk for your bones, you need the nutrition of eggs, or you need the strength from butter or desi ghee. And then if you're working out, you need the animal protein. Even though in Pakistan, where I'm from, we eat a lot of vegetarian food, but not eating meat was never a thing. And I didn't have any vegetarians in my friends or family, so the idea did not blossom out of my subconscious mind. Anyway, I am in America and I start noticing free from aisles in grocery stores. So like gluten-free, dairy-free or vegan stuff in separate areas. I had a vegan class fellow. I met another vegetarian girl who was also from Pakistan. And as soon as she told me that she's vegetarian, these words just bubbled out of my system. Like I did not consciously construct that sentence. It just happened. I was like, oh, I really want to be vegetarian as well. And I expressed the same desire to another person who is vegan, that I really want to do it as well. Looking back at it, I probably annoyed them. Like they were very polite, but they must have been like, girl, what's stopping you? Just do it. I think it was laziness. I was choosing comfort over courage, as a lot of us are just set in our ways because it's comfortable, but there ain't no growth in comfort. Anywho, so the idea continued to become stronger in my field of consciousness. Again, I was not consciously thinking that, oh, I have a vegan class fellow, or I met this vegetarian girl, or oh, veggie burgers. What do I think about this? No, not like that. It felt like the idea was following me, kind of lurking behind me. And now when I look back, it was following me pretty much my entire life. But I didn't allow it to come near me because of cultural conditioning, social programming. I was so set in my ways that it was difficult to imagine there was an alternative. About 3 years ago, Samad and I did go vegetarian for 1 month just to try it out. We did not continue beyond that 1 month. We had not done any research on the actual horrors of animal farming, so our motivation wasn't very strong. And smack at the end of that 1 month, we were going to Pakistan, and you can imagine what happened there. Like, all hell broke loose. All sorts of delicious animals were served to us. Back in university, deciding to buy cruelty-free products was a major turn towards a more plant-based life. When this information crossed my path, this very obvious information that products are tested on animals, I could not support that. And even though this information is very obvious, I did not think about any of that when I was buying makeup or skincare or shower gel. But when I did get educated on it, I wanted to be a conscious consumer. It was an easy switch in my mind, a bit challenging to implement because the products I was using at that time were not cruelty-free. MAC, Bobbi Brown, Benefit, Makeup Forever, NARS, Maybelline, L'Oreal, they all test on animals. And all the designer brands like Chanel, Dior, their makeup stuff is all tested on animals. Some of Sephora's own stuff is tested on animals. I was very disappointed because I loved MAC and NARS. They make really good quality products and they are readily available. But to them, it's money first. China is the one major country that legally requires imported products to be tested on animals. Although there have been talks and some steps have been made to change these laws, as of today in 2019, these laws are still in place. China is obviously a very big market, and most companies have growth and profit as their core vision. So they will not give up on an opportunity to sell in China. The companies might not be conducting the animal tests for anywhere else in the world, but as soon as their product crosses the Chinese border, it is being subjected to animal testing. And the companies are paying for those tests for the reason that their product can be sold in the shelves in China. And the bigger the company is, the more likely it is to sell in China. And companies also word their policy on animal testing very cheekily. They'll be like, oh, we never test our products on animals. We are against that. We think it's crazy. We don't do that except when required by law. Which means that except when they are selling in China, or if another country suddenly decides to impose animal testing, then they will abide by it. So I recently bought this product. I even mentioned it in my Seattle vlog. I went into Sephora and I went to their representatives and I was like, I'm looking for a hydrating mask from a cruelty-free brand. They recommended this to me as a clean brand. It even says on the tube in bold, against animal testing. Recently, when compiling notes for this video, I came to find out that although Caudaly's philosophy is that they are against animal testing, they do sell in China. Where their products can be randomly tested, they do not have control over that, and Caudaly pays for those tests. I was reading on their website. I kind of get their stance. They're trying to change the market by being in the market, and they're funding alternative testing methods. But if you truly care about alternative testing methods, then why can't you fund the research without selling your product in China? I feel like I'm going way off tangent now. So yeah, back in university, I rewired my shopping habits to buy cruelty-free. It was a matter of a bit of research, training myself to read labels, becoming an educated consumer. Was it easy? It was easy in the sense that in America, there are many indie brands that are locally made, good quality and ethical, and all types, drugstore and high-end. But they weren't easily accessible in my local stores. At the local drugstore, there was L'Oreal, Rimmel, Maybelline with their ginormous collection of products in my face. These brands are really easy to buy from and they are affordable AF. So consciously turning away from those aisles took practice. I kept reminding myself that they are not cruelty-free. And sometimes I have zoned out and got stuff without thinking, only to realize later that something is not cruelty-free. Like Aven, that brand has such a wide, pure personality. I just assumed it was clean and thought that it was like a random brand to be selling in China. But recently I found out that they do sell in China. So yeah, it's just been trial and learning and research and more education. There's tons of resources online. If they were to make separate cruelty-free aisles in Boots or Superdrug, that would be really nice. If you feel you're wanting to move towards cruelty-free, there are heaps of ethical brands to buy from, especially if you're living in the West. It's just a bit of a mental training to move away from MAC or NARS. There are alternatives. Tarte, Too Faced, Urban Decay, Bare Minerals. In Pakistan, Luscious Cosmetics, not only is it cruelty-free, it's also vegan. For me, moving towards ethical beauty consumption was a major step towards intentional living. Realizing that as a consumer, I have the power to communicate with the brands whether or not their ethical philosophy aligns with me. We are communicating with our money, and I don't want my money to fund any animal testing. And this experience has been a process of learning and improving. Perfectionism is not the goal, just becoming more awakened and more evolved. So later, I'm in the final semester of my program, and one night, randomly, I say randomly, but I've come to realize that nothing really is random in the universe. There is some higher intelligence popping ideas in our minds, bringing us resources. So yeah, randomly, I started watching this documentary called Cowspiracy, and I went vegan overnight. The documentary affected me so deeply that I gave away my non-vegan groceries to my roommate. I felt ashamed, to be honest, embarrassed, shocked, angry that this information is not in our faces. We are living our lives with those blinders that horses wear. The only information that makes it through the blinders is advertisements that glamorize the food experience, programming us that eating animals and their produce is normal, so therefore moral. And behind those blinders, there are horrific scenes that we contribute to create. I remember just sitting there quite unsettled, and I texted Samad that I'm not going to eat animals anymore. Cowspiracy talks about the unsustainability of the animal agriculture industry. The amount of resources it is consuming is unrealistic. Earth cannot handle the pressure of this industry anymore. It's pretty messed up. We've been hearing about climate change for so long, the urgency of doing something, and we keep hearing burning fossil fuels as the prime villain. That still stands. But I had not heard anyone say that animal farming is massively contributing to greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, water consumption, climate disruption. To me, it was like legit eye-opening. I was shocked that environmentally there is no sustainable way of raising livestock to feed the demand that exists today. So much of Earth's land is consumed to house the animals. Cows, chicken, pigs, lamb. Then there is separate land, like more land, that is cleared to grow food for the animals that we then consume. Obviously, this requires clearing of lots of forests and trees. This destroys the natural habitat of other species. This disrupts the natural ecosystem of Earth. This consumes an unrealistic amount of water. It's not sustainable. Earth cannot bounce back from it. And with the human population only increasing, like the UN said this 9 years ago, that the human population needs to move to a more plant-based diet in order to lessen the impact of climate change. The documentary gives clear statistics and there are animations to help visualize the scale of the environmental impact of animal farming versus plant farming. If you're interested to watch it, it is available on Netflix. So I went vegan overnight. This was the last semester of university. It was super busy and stressful. I was focused on my thesis. I was not in the headspace to start experimenting with vegan cooking. I was eating a lot of veggie burgers, noodles, maybe tofu, like ready-made food. When I graduated, I was tired from my thesis, I was bored from the food I was eating, so I relapsed. I think I was a bit dramatic doing it overnight. I did not ease into it, and I did not have my organized last meal as some vegans do. After graduation, we were taking a trip in the US, and I went back to eating everything. And during that trip, we had some of the best food ever. So it was like the universe said, here, I know your taste buds like these, have the best of it because this is the end of it.